And now it's time for our third keynote speaker, who is a heavy hitter, a major heavy hitter, one of the most important corporate executives in the world. He is the Senior Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer of the Coca-Cola Company, which I'm sure you've all heard of. He is the former head of the Africa Group at Coca-Cola Company. Many, many functions report directly to his office, as in strategic planning, as in people functions, as in research and development. As the former head of the Africa Group, he has been traveling extensively in Africa. He's just told me that he's returned from Nairobi, from Lagos, from a trip to Johannesburg, so he's still very connected to the continent. He was born in Liberia and is our third keynote speaker, Mr. Alex Cummings. Great honor to introduce him.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is a horrible slot, by the way, at the end of the day. Let me start with a Chinese proverb that says, when the wind blows, some people build walls and some people build windmills. And I think everybody in this room here are going to build windmills, given the change happening in Africa. As I said earlier, this is a tough slot to be in, following Ashish this morning, whom I've heard of, like many of you didn't get to know, but he gives very good energy. Tough to follow him. Mrs. Alakija, tough to follow. And then the women's panel, I don't know who stayed here for that, but it's tough to follow a bunch of African women. The good news is that one of my homegirls was on the panel, Saran Kaba-Jones, who's sitting up here to give me moral support. So we've got all of our Nigerian brothers and sisters here. We are outnumbered, so. But it's good to be here. So what I'm going to do today, my consolation for having this slot is the fact that I get to talk about Coca-Cola, which I like to do. And I also get to talk to a lot of young, smart, innovative Africans and Africanists. And I enjoy doing both of those things. My presentation is going to be very short, and then I'll open it up for questions and answers and comments and any suggestions you have about how we can make Coke even bigger and better. I'm all ears. So a few slides to take you through. In trying to get ready for this conversation, I came across this quote from President Kagame of Rwanda. And he tweeted it from Davos, apparently. And it says, the best thing we can do for ourselves is own our own problems, own our own solutions, and write our own stories. What a powerful quote. And I think it speaks to all of us here in this room, I hope, in the sense that the idea of this conference of innovating is to innovate around real problems that are challenging Africa, finding solutions, and writing our own stories. We do not and should not be defined by others. We need to define ourselves and define who we are. And I think it speaks to this conference. I think it speaks to all of us in this room in terms of what we're trying to do. So a little bit about Coca-Cola. Some of these facts you may or may not know. We sell about 1.9 billion servings every day. Every second of every day, the world consumes 10,450 of our products. We have 3,500 brands. So in addition to Coca-Cola, Diet Coke, Sprite, Fanta, Minute Maid, Vitamin Water, Smart Water, many brands here and around the world. We have $17 billion brands, so at least 17 brands that sell at least $1 billion at retail. We have about 700,000 system employees, company and bottler. I think we're about the 4th or 5th largest employer in the world. 270 bottling partners, so we produce in every country that we operate, almost. And we're in every country except North Korea and Cuba. And only because the US government won't allow us to. Coke in Africa. We've been in Africa since 1928, so we've been there a long time. We're the biggest consumer products company in Africa and biggest consumer products employer on the continent. As I said, we're in every country. We produce and sell in every country, except for, I think, Equatorial Guinea is the one country where we still export into that country, but everywhere else we're physically there. We invest heavily in Africa, and we talk about reasons to believe in Africa. This is a McKinsey number that says by 2020, Africa's GDP will be $2.6 trillion. As all of you know, it's been said this morning, growing middle class, growing urbanization. The difficult part about this slide is nothing I can tell you that you haven't heard, right? But the facts, our business in Africa supports all of those facts. And we believe in the continent. The last 10 years, we've invested over $10 billion. And the next 10 years, we'll invest over $12 billion in production plants, production lines, in marketing, in glass, trucks, all the tools we need to grow our business. So we believe in Africa. And we're committed to that continent. As I mentioned, we've been there a very long time, and we'll be there, hopefully, for the next 100 plus years. Innovation is about accelerating change and disrupting change. And we've heard about both of those themes today. And while we tend to focus primarily on technology when we think about innovation, we tend to think about innovation across our company, across our system, process innovation, product innovation, package, equipment, innovation in marketing, in advertising, how we connect with consumers through social media. So we think about innovation very broadly. We also think about innovation in the sense that it can be transformational or it can be incremental, right? I hate to break it to you, but not all of you are going to be involved in transformational innovation, right? Some of you will. We hope many of you will. But some of you and some of us are involved in more incremental transformation, more incremental innovation. But that's just as important, by the way. We need some of both. And it's not going to be all disruptive and all transformational. We do need some incremental changes, incremental transformation to drive some of our current challenges and opportunities. So most Coke executives never do a presentation without showing some ads, right? So I'm going to show some ads, and I'm going to show two, but the first one is just trying to look at Africa from a different perspective, to present Africa to African consumers and to others from a different perspective. And so I think it's a short 30-second ad, but I think you'll find it interesting in terms of how we're thinking about the continent.
If being kind to strangers is crazy, then Africa is the craziest place on earth.
With open hearts and minds, we cherish every day. Reaching out to everyone is our way. One world, one love, is it so hard to understand? There are no strangers in this land. If it's crazy, then let's go crazy. Spreading kindness near and far. And if it's crazy, call us crazy. Let's go crazy.
Great. So again, just a different take on how we think about marketing, how we think about Africa, and really taking real local stories and making that real for people. And again, all small ways we innovate and think about our business in Africa and in other geographies around the world. Something we actually pay a lot of attention to as well is sustainability. You saw those facts about our company, our system, and we feel a moral responsibility because we do use a lot of the world's resources. And we feel an obligation and responsibility to be responsible users of those resources and to give back as much as we can to societies, communities where we live and work. So we have 3 areas we are focused on in sustainability. We focus on many areas, but 3 primary areas. Water, we are a big user of water, as you know. And within water, so we got the 3 W's, water, women, and well-being. And I'll talk a little bit about all 3 of those. But within water, we got what we call the 3 R's, right? We have a lot of acronyms at Coke. So we talk about reducing the amount of water we use. So in our facilities around the world, we're maniacal about making sure we're minimizing the amount of water we use to clean our facilities, wash our facilities. We meter everything. So we want to reduce the amount of water we use. We want to recycle as much of the water we use as possible. In the developed world, the municipalities handles all the recycling and treats the water. In developing markets, Africa, parts of Latin America, parts of Asia, all our facilities have wastewater treatment facilities where we treat the water. And we recycle that water so that it can support plant and aquatic life. So if you visit our plants where we have wastewater treatment facilities, we actually have little fish ponds, so we have actual fish. And the point is those fish should live and survive in our water, otherwise we don't put it back in the environment. So we recycle as much as we can. And then we replenish. As I speak here today, we got close to 500 water replenishment projects around the world. India, all over Africa, where we replenish water. And then we invest in a lot of water projects, like in FIS Africa and others, to make sure we're producing safe, clean drinking water for communities around the world. And we try to pair our water replenishment with sanitation and teaching people and kids sanitation. We do that in schools because there's no point having clean water if your sanitation habits are not good. And those 2 go hand in hand. So we do a lot of that as well. With women, we have our 5 by 20. We want to empower 5 million women by 2020. We're well on our way on that journey. And it's primarily to our supply chain. So women who sell us ingredients, women who sell our products, who distribute our products, a lot of work we do in our 5 by 20 area. And then in well-being, where we encourage healthy, active, balanced lifestyles. And again, we have projects around the world where we support that. So we have the 3 W's in sustainability. And of course, we focus on climate. We have a lot of trucks on the road, cold drink equipment. And again, we try to be responsible around all of those things because it's important to our business system, but it's important to the world. I often say to people, when we go to work for Coke, we don't lose our humanity. We want to be we are a part of the world. We have kids, want to have grandkids one day. And we want to leave this world better than we inherited it, and very important to the leadership of our business. So let me give you just a few simple examples of what we're doing in this area, including some innovation. Again, perhaps not transformational, but certainly innovation from our business perspective. One of these we call MDCs, micro distribution centers. And I've gotten questions last night and today about, you go to the farthest reaches of the earth, and you find a Coke product and a Coke sign. And people ask, so how do you do this? And there are several ways. The simplest answer I gave is the fact that everybody along our supply chain makes a buck, makes money. Capitalism works, right? And it's by design, it's deliberate. It doesn't happen by accident. And when everybody makes a buck along that supply chain, there's a natural incentive for people to get the product to wherever. We have an example where we work with some NGOs, a project called Last Mile, and I'll get to that in a second. But NGOs often ask, so how do you do it? Well, no matter how beneficial the product is, people have to make a living. They're not going to distribute it for free. They might take a lower margin because it helps their communities, but they won't do it for free. And so the fact is, again, everybody has to make a buck along the supply chain. But the MDC concept was an innovation to help us get to some rural areas, but primarily in urban areas where our traditional trucks couldn't get to our products into the markets and into small spaces. And so we set up these micro distribution centers, primarily owned by women, where we can deliver product, and they can use push carts, they can use smaller pickup trucks, They can use motorcycles and they distribute the product into the furthest reaches of their villages or their marketplace or wherever community they are. It's been a very successful innovation, employs a lot of people. It was started in East Africa, is exported to North Africa, to China, to our business in Vietnam. So this was an invention in our African business that is now being used in other geographies around the world. And again, an example of perhaps not a disruptive innovation, but innovation nevertheless in terms of how we distribute our products. Eco-centers, another innovation, is relatively new, but it was geared around providing clean, accessible water. And so the core of our eco-centers is a machine that produces clean water. And then around that, you build other services. People can come and charge their cell phones because we provide electricity. They can buy other products, not just Coca-Cola products. So it becomes a low service center for communities, peri-urban and rural communities around Africa and Latin America. So we're piloting this. This is very new. We're piloting this in South Africa as we speak, in Peru, in Latin America. And I believe we may have a unit in Ghana, not 100% sure. But again, this is another innovation where it's not just about bringing our products to market, but it's about providing a service to communities and the entrepreneurs. Again, primarily women actually make a living and a pretty good living. Again, here we look at the economics of all of this. We look at the margin structure, how much it costs to invest. Do we want to provide some credit or not? So we want to make sure it's sustainable because if it's not, then it wouldn't make sense for us or for the entrepreneur. I mentioned 5 by 20. The 2 projects I mentioned contribute to that, but 5 by 20 is an important initiative. It's something that's global. In the US, the adaptation of this concept is to our supplier base. We have a unit in Atlanta that focuses on diverse suppliers, which is women and people of color, and we work with them to build their capabilities, to build their skills. We pay them back faster because working capital sometimes is a challenge for them, but all about empowering women. Again, if you listen to the last panel, women are going to be the savior of the world. I actually believe that, by the way. The president of my country is a woman, so the men screwed it up for many years, and so she's going to help us. And then last mile I mentioned, we have this concept at Coca-Cola where we believe that to solve a lot of the world's problems, you have to work in what we call this golden triangle: governments, civil society, NGOs, and business. And this is an example of that we're doing in Tanzania, and we're going to spread around Africa and other parts of the world where it makes sense. But this particular project, the Tanzania stores that distributes drugs to clinics around Tanzania, up to about 5,000 different small locations, 3,300 different drugs, and had a difficult time getting the product to what you call that last mile. So in collaboration with the Gates Foundation, the Global Fund, Accenture, and the Coca-Cola Company, we decided to take our distribution expertise. Accenture came and did some great work documenting and adapting what made sense in our distribution system for what might make sense in a quote-unquote pharmaceutical environment. And did some pilots in Tanzania, worked very well, went from 30 days delivery to 5 days at lower cost, much more efficient. And so wonderful example, again, of a different kind of innovation, different kind of collaboration between business, NGO, and the Tanzania government. And it's producing real tangible results for the people of Tanzania. And the plan is to adapt that to other geographies, other markets around the world where there's a need for this kind of quote-unquote innovation. So that's basically my last slide, I think. I've got one last ad that I'm going to show, and then I'll open it up for questions, comments, and we'll have a conversation. I find that's the best way to interact, because I can stand up here and talk a lot and not hit any of the questions you wanted to ask me. So let me go to the ad, and we'll take some questions, and then I have 1 or 2 comments at the end.
I will pray for all the people of this land, and I will hold them close to me, yeah. Together one day there'll be sweet harmony.
So let's be patient peacefully. Hey, yeah, yeah. All I need is a here right here in Africa. Share to secure for here in Africa. All I need is a here right here in Africa. To give mercies, oh, start the Africa. And I love you, Africa. I love you, Africa. I love you, Africa. I love you, yeah. All I need is a here right here in Africa. Share to secure for here in Africa. All I need is a here right here in Africa. To give mercies, oh, start the Africa. And I love you, Africa. I love you, Africa. I love you, Africa. I love you, yeah. I love you, Africa. I love you, Africa. I love you, Africa. I love you, yeah.
You can find that on YouTube if you want to watch it again. So I'll take questions, comments, suggestions for me. Mics are on both ends. And if you don't have any, that means I've done a brilliant job. I think it's on.
I'm Chibo from University of Nigeria, Nsukka. I'm a fellow in MIT here. My question is really, I'm happy with what you presented, and Coke is doing something, but my question is, how much more can Coke do, particularly for Africa? Because in my own opinion, I do not think Coke is doing as much as they can, considering what they are getting from Africa. That's my own question.
So is that a comment or a question?
No, the question is, how much more can you do?
Look, that question could apply to literally any geography around the world. And we can always do more of everything, including giving back. But we are very comfortable and confident about what we're doing in Africa and what we're giving back. I had the good fortune when I ran Africa, we actually established the Coca-Cola Africa Foundation. And of all the geographies around the world, we do the most in Africa from a philanthropic perspective. We work with multiple other organizations. USAID is one of our biggest partners in water around Africa. I give an example, the Gates Foundation, the One Last Mile project. We work with them on another project in Kenya called, together with TechnoServe and the company, and we work with farmers to help them with their yields and supply chain. And then we guarantee we'll buy the produce, primarily mango farmers to use in our products. So we do a lot in Africa. Could we do more? Perhaps. And we're always looking for ways to do better, to do more. Everybody has a point of view on whether it's enough or not, or which area we should focus on, and we appreciate all the input, and we appreciate the push, right? The push to do more is welcome, and we'll try to do the best we can. But we also make no apologies by the fact that we are a for-profit company. And we do subscribe to the fact that you can do well and do good at the same time, and we want to do both. So fair push, and we'll continue to strive to do more and more and more.
Good afternoon, Mr. Cummings. It is a pleasure to be in front of you. I'm Maria Concha. I'm a student in Boston College. I'm from Ecuador. And I wanted to ask you something regarding your impact on social responsibility based on how you do in the business. So in Ecuador, I've seen that Coca-Cola is like a very well-recognized brand, but at the same time, it is considered an exclusive brand, and it's a luxury, so people cannot easily afford it. You commented in your presentation that you have like this inspiring mission that is to empower women, and you try to like involve them in the distribution channel. So my question is, how do you face the challenge of trying to empower women who are needed, but at the same time, can these women sell to other people if the people they are like close to cannot really afford your product? Thank
Okay.
you.
So we have, again, we have a lot of acronyms. So I talk about 3 Ws, 3 Rs. We have the 3 As. Affordability is one of the areas we focus on to try to make our products affordable to consumers around the world. So affordability, availability, and acceptability, those are the 3 As. And it's something we work hard at to try to make our products affordable. Now, perhaps we're not as successful as we can or should be in Ecuador, but I assure you it's something we focus on. If you think about the history of this country, automobiles and Ford and the unions, and when they were initially selling cars and the employees couldn't afford to buy it, what you're suggesting is that perhaps the same thing happening in Ecuador, where we have women who are selling our products, but they can't afford or their families can't afford to buy it. That's an issue. That's a problem we need to address. But let me assure you, we try to make our products affordable because that's how we can grow our business around the world. Latin America actually is one of our most successful geographic groups. It's an Ecuadorian guy who runs our business in Mexico today, which is one of our biggest businesses in the world, one of the highest per caps. That's not answering your question, but what I will say is we do try to make our product affordable. We focus on that. We focus on the economics to make sure we do that. But it sounds like I need to go back and push our guys and girls. They're not doing good enough job of making that happen. But we do focus on affordability. So I'll go over here and then I'll come back here.
Hi, I'm Saran Kaba-Jones from
So you
South
can't ask me a
Africa.
tough question, Saran.
So obesity is a major is a major public health issue here in the United States, and I'm sure around the world. And in Africa, diabetes and high sugar related diseases are a major health concern as well. What is Coke doing to address this issue? Are there any steps that are being taken to address this issue? And what can you tell us about those efforts? Thank
Sure.
you.
Actually, a very good question. And so I'm glad Saran asked it. I'm disappointed she asked it, but that's okay. So obesity is an issue. It's an epidemic, particularly in the West, US, Western Europe, but it's an issue everywhere. So in Africa, South Africa particularly, obesity is a problem. And in pockets around Africa is an issue, and pockets around other geographies is a problem. I'll give you some facts about the US. And we're doing these studies in every geography around the world. But if you look at calorie intake in this country based on the diets, it will vary by market because diets vary. Something like 7% of calories consumed in the US come from sugar-sweetened beverages. So not just Coke, all sugar-sweetened beverages, Coke, Pepsi, sweet tea, et cetera, et cetera. So the other 93% of calories comes from everything else you consume, all right? So the math would say if you ban all sugar-sweetened beverages, you still have an obesity problem. Those are facts, right? This is not Coca-Cola's facts. These are just facts. Having said that, though, we do sell sugar-sweetened beverages. We do sell calories. So it's not good enough for us to blame the other 93%. We say, what's the solution? Because it is a problem. And how can we help to solve that issue? And there are several things we're doing to try to address the obesity issue. And by the way, obesity is all about calories in and calories out, right? It's easier to consume calories. It's difficult to expend calories. That's the basic math. So we're doing several things. One is we're saying we want to make sure that people know what's in our product, how many calories and everything else. So if you look at a can of Coke or a PET bottle, we call it front of panel labeling. All the calorie information is on there, so you know what you're consuming, right? Because we all have to take responsibility for what we put in our bodies. So we want to be transparent. The second thing we say, we're going to offer low and no calorie options to all of our products in every geography around the world. So you can have regular Coke, right? Or you can have Diet Coke. Or you can have Coke Zero, you can have Sprite Zero, you can have Fanta Zero. So all of our products, we offer low or no calorie options. We also are saying, because the obesity challenge is about calories in and calories out, we want to promote exercise, active, healthy living programs. So we got programs in every country around the world. This is why we sponsor the Olympics. We sponsor football, soccer for Americans. And we have some football leagues all around the world, local, with young people, to encourage active health, so you expend calories and you consume calories. And then we want to be responsible marketers. We don't want to market to children. So in addition to those 4 actions, we're investing heavily in R&D around the whole sweetener space, because the nirvana is a no-calorie sweetener, 0-calorie sweetener, natural, and tastes like sugar, functions like sugar, right? That would be the silver bullet. It's actually possible. It's 5, 7+ years out, but we can see a line of sight to that ultimate. Other companies are working in that space as well, which is a good thing. So somebody will find it first. Whoever, we hope we find it first, because you'll have an advantage for a while, but you have to make it available to everybody, and because it's not the kind of stuff you keep for yourself. And that's the long-term solution, is to find all-natural, 0-calorie, taste and functions like sugar. And we're investing heavily to try to crack that code. And as I say, it's possible. It may not be one single ingredient. It might be a combination of things, but it's very possible. So that's what we're doing to address the issue. It is a problem. We want to be part of the solutions. We get blamed for it, and that's the cost of leadership. But we don't try to be defensive about it. We want to get engaged and try to solve the issue, because although we are not the problem, we contribute to the problem because we sell sugar-sweetened beverages. Yep. I'll come here and then we'll keep alternating. I got a plane to catch, so we got to manage that.
All right, she's just taking the first part of my question, so I will just follow up on what she said. I'm glad you mentioned Mexico. For some
Mention
time
what?
now. Mexico.
Mexico.
Yeah, as one of your key markets. Some studies have shown that more people die in Mexico as a result of obesity and diabetes than even the drug lords, kill every year. And recently, there's been a debate in their parliament about a law to tax companies like yours extra to take care of the health problems that consuming products like yours create. So I'm just curious to ask, how will you react to attempts by countries like mine, Nigeria, to say Coke should pay some extra to take care of the health burdens that consuming their product creates? Thank you.
Yeah, look, the honest answer is we don't like taxes. We don't think discriminatory taxes work. Now, look, we get taxed around the world, excise tax, VAT. And the question is, where do you end, right? Where do you start and where do you stop from a taxation perspective? We do pay taxes because like any other business, we got to contribute to the economic and government success and what they need to do. But we don't support discriminatory taxes. We don't think it works. Again, we don't think we are the problem, and the facts would say we're not. And so, look, you got to take this with a grain of salt, because I work for Coca-Cola, right? But I sincerely believe that is the wrong policy because it's not going to solve the issue. The issue is to get people to exercise, for people to have balanced diets. We want people to have choices. So again, you can have a sugar-sweetened Coke, or you can have a 0-calorie Coke. and taxation is not the ultimate solution. Yes.
Hi, my name's Darian Hendricks. I'm an MIT alum, and I run a youth-oriented incubator. My question is a little staggered around intellectual property and innovation, and as it relates to where Coke has presence. So the first question is, how does Coke, as an American company that sees itself as a global company, manage the issue of where it distributes with governmental policies that are going on in those countries and Coke as a company? And how do you separate that? So people who are starting global companies, how do they deal with those ethical choices? The second is, where do you see R&D? Since you run R&D, where is innovation that Coke is looking for? And how could Africa or other countries play a role in contributing to innovations such as the bottle design, which was a functional concept that Coke came up with?
Right. So, with regards to where we sell and distribute, as you saw on the slide, we sell and distribute everywhere. Because of our size, the brand recognition, we don't have the challenges a small company would have with regulations and stuff, meaning with corrupt practices and that kind of stuff. People know we won't do it. And because we're big and because the brand is recognized, there's never an attempt to, ask us to do something that is outside the rules and regulations. And so that's not an issue. Plus, we operate through a franchise system. We have franchise bottlers who are local, tend to be local, know the local customs, how things get done. We insist they do it the right way. And so that's another advantage we have because we have local folks running our businesses around the world, people who know the environment, who speak the language, and it makes a big difference in terms of our ability to go to market. And it's another reason why you find us everywhere. With regards to R&D, R&D is very important, and innovation is very important to us. As I said, we invest a lot in the sweetener space. In packaging, we introduce plant bottles, so 30% of the PET bottle, the Tasani bottle is plant-based. We're working on 100% plant bottle. We innovate in equipment, so we innovate across the board, product, package, equipment, ingredients. And it's a very important part of our growth strategy is to make sure we're innovating. And also to think about how we disrupt ourselves. We also acquire innovation. We acquire new brands and products, both in this country and around the world, because not everything we do organically. Sometimes we have to acquire growth and acquire new brands and products. And we do that quite successfully as well. So it's both organic growth, internal innovation, R&D, but it's also acquiring technology or acquiring new brands and new products where we think we can leverage those acquisitions through our system. Yes?
Hi, Paige Buchanan from the Global Business School Network. You talked a lot about doing well and doing good, and a lot of what you talked about could be defined traditionally as CSR. And a lot of what I think has been talked about today, and I hear a lot about, especially in Africa, is social entrepreneurship, responsible capitalism, doing good by doing well. And I wonder how much that plays into your thought process as you innovate and find ways to integrate doing well into being a successful business.
Right. So we think about that a lot. We don't think that, continuously writing checks and giving people money is the solution. It's not sustainable as you suggest. So our 5x20 effort is all about sustainability because those women are in business. They make money as they either distribute our products or they sell goods to us. The Eco Center, which I mentioned we're piloting, it's a for-profit enterprise. They will sell our products. They will sell many other products, but it's for profit. And it's not, now we will give them a jump start perhaps, right? So we might put a piece of equipment or we might give them the first consignment of product on credit at very favorable terms, or we might donate it. We'll give them a jump start, but in the end, we believe it has to be sustainable. You can't just write checks, it doesn't work. If it's not, no matter how low the margin is or the profit is, everything you do has to have a margin so that you can reinvest in that business. So we very much believe in the for-profit model in the context of how we do our quote-unquote CSR work. So I'm getting a hook. Let me say it's been wonderful spending a few minutes having a conversation with you. I'm inspired by everybody I've heard today and everybody I've met. You know, it's all been said. Africa is doing well. Africa is rising. I hope most of you go home to your countries and help. But by the way, it's never either or. Some people may want to stay and still help from the diaspora, and that's okay. But no matter where, from what vantage point you do it, you have to stay engaged in the continent. You have to stay connected to the continent. The future of Africa depends on you. And so I wish you all the best and much success. And you know, good luck and all the best. Thank you very much.